Is it going? Ooh, live from my mother's basement, and actually from Dan's living room. Ladies and gentlemen, back for Dan and John's epic wrestling adventure. It's me, your host, Johnny. Whee! And I have a special guest today for this particular audio. My best friend, Dan Talks Wrestling.
Thanks. How's it going?
What do you mean, how's it going? I've been here for a few hours.
True,
Like
true.
we don't talk.
Yeah.
Actually, we don't talk. He prefers to keep it that way, keep the police out of it, not involved, low drama. What we
It
would
was
like...
like that when I got here.
We're having a good time, sitting back. We just watched TNA Impact, and this is an audio, to quote my good friend Dreamboy899, that we've wanted to do for a long time. What's the topic today, Dan? What are we going to be talking about today?
Live events.
Live events. What kind of live events?
Well, wrestling, of course.
Wrestling live events. What wrestling live events did we go to in 2012?
Well, actually, you went to at least one more than I did, but two for me.
Those two were together with yours truly.
Right.
Saw some TNA Impact Live World Tour. That was good. That was real good. In fact, we saw them just at the tail end of 2011 also, didn't we?
We did.
So we got a little bit to compare for that. We also went and we saw Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. That was a treat, was it not?
Was. Absolutely.
That was a great show. That was a feel-good moment for everybody involved there. And the other show that I went to was a live WWE Raw in Hartford, Connecticut, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But tonight, or today, or whatever the hell you're watching this, reading it, doing it, listening, something, I don't know what's going on. You're going to be experiencing this, let's say. Hopefully not in the way that, you know, you're sitting home in your mother's basement all alone. You know what? I do that enough. That's fine. We're going to talk about the differences between the three companies that put on these shows, the environments of these shows, the fans that were there, and we're going to talk about our experience so that you can experience our experience, and we can give you experience for the next show.
How many experience points did this earn our listeners, John?
I think they might have leveled down. I don't know.
Hopefully we'll at least be able to get this out of the way a little bit shorter than the TNA roster review we did probably a little bit later than this time last year.
Oh,
Was
man.
that like 4 hours or so that ended up being?
I think there were 4.5 hours of total audio for that, and for that we do apologize. I know that probably none of you sat all the way through that, but that was a good one. We really got into it. I thought a lot better off than we were going to.
Who knew we were going to have that much to say about Anarchia?
Or Tony Nese, who got released, and then we saw him actually at the House of Hardcore show.
Yes, we did.
Let's jump right into this. Who would you want to start with?
I don't know. Do you want to go in like chronological order? Or?
I think it makes sense to go in chronological order. What that would be House of Hardcore then, right?
Yeah.
House of Hardcore was
October 6th.
October the 6th of 2012. Poughkeepsie, New York, for all of you that do not know. The Mid-Hudson Civic Center. It's a historic place where the Macho Man Randy Savage debuted Miss Elizabeth as his manager. Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik and many other people had fought in that same arena. Big John Studd cut the hair of who?
Andre the Giant.
Andre the freaking Giant, okay? This place was one of the many palaces, I guess you could say, across the early days of the blazing trail that WWF would, you know, eventually never walk again, because they don't do small arenas like that. They don't do private little house shows. They got turned into this big world, huge corporation, global company, whatever you want to call it. And now it seems like the common day wrestling fan that grew up with that kind of stuff just gets lost to the wayside to all these big arenas, and you don't really get an intimate, up-close experience like you did at the House of Hardcore at these smaller places. The place holds, what, 2,000 people about?
About that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And House of Hardcore did just about sell it out. It was 1,900 plus that were in attendance for it.
Yeah, it didn't look like there was an open seat in the house when we went, and in fact, there was a very big line to go pee. So you might want to get that over with before the fight.
There's only one bathroom in the place that I'm aware of, at least public bathrooms. Incidentally, aside from all the great wrestling history at that building, the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, on a personal connection to it, my college graduation was actually held there too. So
College
it's a great
graduation?
place. Yeah.
What did you get a degree in? Wrestling?
Listen, I'll have you know, I come from a highly educated university. I come out here in front of all this white trash, and I gotta dumb myself down. Incidentally, Scott Steiner was there, too.
He was there. This was a great little thing. You could meet everybody that was associated with this, and even people that didn't perform that night, such as Maurice, whose autograph I got, and the police were not called. We're going to emphasize
only
this
because
again.
you ran away before they got there.
But that doesn't have anything to do with it, okay? I hid in the bathroom stall for 3 hours. Point being, everybody that was involved in this thing, from Tommy Dreamer to his own mother that was selling merchandise, you heard it first, from one person that lives in his own mother's basement. It was very nice to thank Tommy Dreamer's mom, not only for the merchandise, but to thank her for Tommy Dreamer. And those seat cushions that would later come, that we didn't buy there.
Yeah, we really should have, because the seat cushions that they had made up, which I think you can get on the House of Hardcore website, still, that's where I got them anyway, they had a nice little pocket on them, which would have been actually nice to have for, you know, holding the autographs and other stuff we got. So.
Yeah, I smudged my ink on my Maurice photo. I was not too pleased. But that's what happens when you have sweaty hands because you're nervous because she's hot! So when we went, our main two goals were to meet some of the women that we really liked in wrestling. Of course, myself, big Maurice fan. It's no secret on this channel. That's why I had the whole video that just showed the autograph from her. I was very proud to have that. It was a very intimate experience, not in the way that got the cops called, but just to walk up to her, meet her, get to talk to her. You know, I joked with her about Alex Riley, somebody that she used to go out on the road with and or date. You know, I mean, it's, hey, something there. And my good friend Dan.
Then, of course, you pretended to not know how to use my camera, so that you had to have the picture reshot.
Hey, that's genius. Genius.
Indeed it was.
How about the beauty of when you had your favorite diva there, Miss Kate Lee Burchell, or as other people might know her as Winter?
Yes.
How about that? I did pretend also not to know how to use the camera, and part of that was true, but I think I knew what I was doing enough to get by, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of extra time there, and I think it was duly appreciated.
Indeed.
So we got to meet, you know, our favorite ladies that were going to be there, and on the House of Hardcore DVD, Miss Winter also did commentary for what, like the last half of the event, even after her match?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way, you can buy this on DVD. I don't know the particular website. I think it's just what.
I think just about all the retailers have it. It's actually put out by RF Video, but I believe highspots.com I think has it in stock now, and probably any of the other Smart Mark Video. If you just go to houseofhardcore.net, there'll be a link on there to buy it. And again, make sure you put in houseofhardcore.net. If you put in .com, it's a very different website.
Oh, baby. Yeah, not exactly Tommy Dreamer type material there, but a different kind of match involving a blindfold, perhaps. Anyway, what we're trying to say is that it was a cute little event, and cute, I don't mean like the dog that they carry in purses. Cute, I mean like, made you feel like being a wrestling fan meant something again. It was such an invigorating show. Everybody there had such a great time. The energy in the place was fantastic. Even with the heckling from the crowd, which, by the way, we were part of, it wasn't the hostile kind of heckling where, you know, you just get an X-Pac heat throughout the whole building and you were going to riot or anything. No chairs were thrown in the making of this event. But everybody there, the performers seemed like they were really wanting to give a good show and give it their all. Even the ones that couldn't give 110% like they had in their younger days. Even Steiner had a great match with none other than
Luke Gallows.
Luke Gallows. Where have we seen him?
Big XLG.
Oh, man. Yeah, he was just on tonight on TNA Impact. We saw him, and actually, we saw him not all that long ago at the TNA event we went to live. We'll get to that in a second. had a pretty good card up and down. Do you remember some of the matches there that we particularly liked, and/or the order in which they appeared?
Well, as far as order goes, I won't try to do that just because I probably won't get it exactly right. No. But because we brought him up already, Tony Nese versus another Mikey Whipwreck trainee, with Mikey as the guest referee. It was kind of an interesting match because they were probably the least known names on the card. Nese and Reynolds, of course. Mikey, of course, everybody knew. But it was really well put together. Maybe a little bit of a shaky start, but Mikey, as the referee, really got the crowd into it and involved. And then it really picked up action-wise, and eventually Nese did like this really crazy combination of counters to Reynolds' offense. He did like a kind of a Matrix flip kind of thing, and then a dive to the outside and a reverse Hurricane Rana, and it actually ended up getting the first "This is awesome" chant of the night. So it really did become a highlight.
I believe it was around this time too that the HOH House of Hardcore chant started to go off, because originally everybody there was chanting, of course, loyalty-wise, EC Dub, because of who was putting on the event. But I think it really was a coming together and an ushering in of the newer faces of this generation that are going to be performing. And especially with this match between Nese and Reynolds that nobody really knew going in. And even the first match with Crowbar and Daivari, people were chanting at Crowbar, "We don't know you!" I think that the HOH chant symbolized that we're the wrestling fans, at least at the house shows. We come there because of the big draws, yes, but we're ready to embrace that next generation of performers. We, although sometimes getting kind of smart marky, coming on the internet, sharing our friggin' opinions, whether they're wanted or not, always in your face, always with the Twitter, always with the social media. We're ready. We want to see the next big thing happen, and we really do support pro wrestling still. Even if, we're pissed at WWE from time to time, even if TNA puts us to sleep sometimes, what we're looking for is still there. At the heart of the community of the wrestling fan at these local shows, you get a lot better of a crowd than just some of these more casual fans with the 15 kids that they're dragging in just to get that one John Cena autograph. And I'll get to that a little bit later, too.
And I want to say, I could be wrong, but I think the match before the one we were talking about, before Nese and Reynolds, if I'm not mistaken, it was the second match on the card. It was billed as the final encounter between Danny Doring and Roadkill, of course, the last ECW tag team champions, and the FBI, which were represented here by Little Guido and Tony Mamaluke. And it probably will be the last encounter because Roadkill came out of retirement for this match, and Mamaluke retired not long after it. And after the match, of all people, Roadkill, who I don't think I've ever heard before that say anything more than just chickens, he actually did a promo talking about how ECW was the past, and it's great to respect that, but House of Hardcore was the future, and I think that also helped kind of turn the crowd on to really what was going on here, that it wasn't just another ECW tribute or knockoff or whatever, but it actually was something that was supposed to be moving forward, and again, like John said, to be for the fans.
And with this idea and mentality for the fans, even though the Nese and Reynolds match kind of started off slow, it started off sloppy, there was a botch in there, there's a chant started to Reynolds of "you fucked up," and it really looked like he was getting a little bit hot under the collar at this, like he was really embarrassed at himself. And I think that at one point, even I threw the comment out there, I said, "Mikey," the referee obviously during the match, I said, "You train these two assholes?" And he kind of looked at me and he gave that little shoulder shrug and that smile like,
Which was also his reaction when somebody else in the crowd started, when he first came out, a chant of "Where'd your hair go? Where'd your hair go?"
But this was a really good match, and it ended up winning the crowd back over, well, pun intended here, hardcore, because really what happened was they showcased the fact that these guys could go in the ring if given the chance. And Tony Nese really got this place popping behind him, hotter than almost any other superstar that night, I'll wager, because people were just so shocked and excited at all the flips and the counters and everything that he was doing. It was a good feeling, especially after the rough start it had. And especially after the promo by Roadkill, it really helped set the tone for the rest of that night. We had 3 or 4 chants of HOH, House of Hardcore, break out, and it was nice. Even when the ECW originals, Dreamer and Sandman and everybody else were making their appearance, the HOH chants were the ones that closed out the night. And I think that was really important, especially to me as a fan, to be involved in that little piece of history. The launching, the launching point for a new just a new thing, a new generation of wrestlers to come in under the name of House of Hardcore. And also in the first ever House of Hardcore, presentation, whatever you want to call it, production, you saw a tag team match for all tag team matches to ever want to follow the formula of for success. Holy shit, did this blow the roof off of the place. And who am I talking about here, Dan?
That was the Young Bucks, who TNA fans may also remember as Generation Me, against Brian Kendrick and Paul London.
What a match this was, huh?
Yep. It was probably the one that, just on paper, before actually going to the show, I was most interested in seeing, and definitely didn't disappoint.
When Dan had originally come to me with the idea of going to this show, and I didn't know really anybody on the card except for Dreamer and except for, I don't know who else, Steiner I think was advertised to have been there. We didn't know he was going to be in a match. We just knew he was going to be there. But we knew that the Young Bucks were going to take on Paul London and Kendrick. And I said to myself, that is the one match that I want to see, that I am excited and pumped for, and it did not fail in any way. In fact, I think it superseded everybody's expectations. And the chants that were going on during this match were phenomenal. I mean, you got teabagged. How many people can say that they were at a live event when one of the teammates would be used as a weapon against the other teammate, and they get crotched in the face, and the crowd just jumps into, you got teabagged? What was wonderful about this match is the way that Generation Me was able to play off of this, get the upper hand again, knock down, I think it was Kendrick in the ring, I don't know who specifically, and then go to the crowd and pose and pander and say, who got teabagged now, baby? It was like a Y2J moment mixed with a little bit of HBK sarcasm, mixed with like some Edge and Christian. And who actually introduced this match, Dan, now that I think about it?
Yes, I know. I was going to say, I think his name was Adam Copeland, if I remember right.
Oh, right. He put off neck surgery to be at this event because that's how much it meant to him. And he was in the back helping Tommy Dreamer and everybody else kind of get it together. And he gave one of the best promos I think I've ever heard him give. And I'm not exaggerating this in some way just to pump up the fact that I was in an event and it was cool and you weren't there, blah, blah, blah. No. Like, it was legit awesome to be part of that, and I am so happy that they're having another one coming around soon, maybe in May, maybe in June sometime. I'm not quite sure on the date, and I don't think they are either. I know it's going to be after Mania, and I'm looking forward to being in that crowd and living that up again, as many times as we can as fans that are hungry for something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you got anything else to really say about this event? Maybe something about Dreamer himself, maybe something about the speech he gave at the end, maybe something about, the women's match, or whatever else might have happened there. I'm kind of glossing over at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth noting the main event, which was a triple threat between Dreamer himself, Carlito, and Mike Knox for the FWE heavyweight title. I think it's worth noting that Dreamer actually had his own show. Actually took the pin, put Carlito over. I think that really kind of says it all about what kind of a guy he is. It's not necessarily a secret that he's considers himself a fan first, but it really just did kind of cement that he was more interested in putting someone else over and maybe doing what was best for business, putting over not necessarily an unestablished star in Carlito's case, but certainly a younger star who potentially could still go on to have a bright future in one of the big companies, who knows, rather than take the glory for himself. And, this was Dreamer's show. I don't think anybody in the building would have blamed him if he had himself win in the main event, but he didn't go that route. So, again, I thought that was kind of a defining thing. And, of course, they did still do the moment of glory at the end, where Dreamer and Carlito were attacked by Knox after the bell. Then Raven came out, and Sandman came in for the save. and then of course Dreamer did the go home speech after that, which was also great. Um, but yeah, it was just overall a great experience, and it really did feel like it was something put together for the fans first. And if you have a chance to check it out on DVD, I think you can get it on demand online too. But DVD, Blu-ray, it's out on. Definitely recommend it.
I don't think anybody that's a real wrestling fan would be disappointed. If you're one of these more casual people that likes the big names, they had enough of them there to get you interested, but really it was a showcase for the younger guys. And what I liked about it was the fact that in the main event, with the title itself on the line, that they didn't do the safe thing. They didn't just keep it on Dreamer. You know, they put it on a guy in Carlito that is a workhorse and has a reputation for being a workhorse and also for being looked over in other companies. We won't mention any names, WWE, but I mean, just the fact that it was a wholesome, feel-good thing for the fans. And at the very, very end, when Tommy Dreamer was sending everybody home, he made a comment that's really stuck with me since the event. He said, I believe almost word for word, that he's never thought of us in the terminology of fans and performers, because that would imply that there's a disconnect. Even though the fans are involved in the thing, to say that they're not just as much in the ring with these guys getting behind him, he's always said that they're his family. And I think that speaks true to us here, even those of us that are very opinionated on YouTube and in the internet wrestling community all over the world. It's more than just being a bunch of guys or girls sitting around talking about wrestling. It's people that have shared memories and moments of what really defined your own childhood. You know, we don't need to go into each other's childhood now because that would take forever, but just living in that moment and enjoying things, it really does feel like it's bringing you together. Like it's just more than a bunch of people performing in the ring that you paid money for. Like it's a real experience. And I think that's why I just harped on this idea at the beginning of the audio of experience. That whole word just really, it encaptures what I was trying to get at before. Like it was more than just a show. You had to be there. And if you see it on DVD, you can still really see how much the crowd reacted. For as small of an audience as that was, that place's roof was blown off many a time with the different chants, and the energy in there was incredible. Anything else you'd like to add to that, or did I pretty much kind of put the nail in the coffin?
Yeah, I think that covers it pretty well for now. I'm sure there'll probably be some point we'll come back to as we compare and contrast, but yeah, I guess that's good for now anyway. And I guess next, chronologically, was the WWE house show that you went to, and I guess I'll let you take the lead on that one since I was not actually there for it, so I'll throw that to you.
Right before Ryback fought CM Punk again for the title, I managed to go to a house show for WWE in Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford, Connecticut being a bigger arena, comparable, probably a little bit bigger than the Times Union Center in Albany, New York, for anybody that lives up in this area and knows. Times Union Center is actually the Knickerbocker Arena, renamed.
Or the Pepsi Arena,
yeah.
I'm sure nobody prefers that, but there you have it.
1992, Ric Flair, right?
Yep.
Royal Rumble, won the title. Put that, and he'll tell you too in his interviews, like he did at the other TNA show that we went to at that same arena, that he put that on the map, and he ain't kidding. I mean, him and Hulk Hogan and Sid Justice and whoever else was involved in that match, really, it was an important pay-per-view, and it really put the Times Union Center on the map as a historical building at that point, because you had never had that many larger-than-life personalities in that building before. I don't care who was playing basketball or not, or hockey or whatever the hell else they brought in there. Could have been the Barnum and Bailey Circus. You can see a circus just about anywhere. Where can you see Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Sid Justice and Macho Man all in the same building, That says a lot. But the WWE show, first and foremost, there were so many children. And I'm talking like the child to adult ratio must have been at least 10-1. There were so many kids. And even the quality of supervision that these so quote unquote parents had for these children. It was like there were other children that were taking care of the children, like maybe older children that were age 10 were looking after the children age 4, running around screaming, raising hell in the bathroom, trying to flush all the paper towels, whatever. And I get that they're kids and they're going to do this kind of stuff, but control your friggin' offspring, will you? First of all. Second of all, the star power that was just not present. Like, okay, I get it. It's not going to be the same roster as it was back in the day, but at least have your main star, John Cena, show up if you're going to do this stuff. He wasn't there. And in the very, very beginning, what they did was they said anybody that wants a refund has to get it by the second match. And probably many of them decided that they were going to take and just get the refund. Like, I mean, the arena was really bad attendance. It didn't draw at all. And there were probably 4,000 people in a place that could hold a heck of a lot more. A lot of the upper levels were, obviously tarped off because it was a house show. But when you can't even draw 6,000 or 8,000 in Hartford, the place that the WWE is almost based out of, that's a problem. When your megastars at this show are Kane and Daniel Bryan, it drives me a little bit crazy. I know you weren't there, but I mean, it was underwhelming in the least. Like, even Ryback in the main event there couldn't get Paul Heyman up on his shoulders to give him the finishing move. So, just really much different experience. A lot of the kids would chant the simple stuff, but not even Cena showed up, and everybody was booing the heels, and nobody was really getting any appreciation except the mega baby faces. Like, to give Santino Marella a bigger pop than you're giving Damian Sandow or something, it's just weird. I guess we could transition into the TNA show now, because I don't have a very good experience coming from the standpoint of the WWE show. There really wasn't anybody there to meet. There was no live meet and greets. And the closest you could get to a performance and an autograph was buying a couple of CM Punk pictures that had been autographed beforehand. And once they were out, they were out. They weren't going to have any more done. You couldn't get a picture taken with anybody to save your life. It was a mess. They were more concerned with getting in, doing the thing, and getting out than they were the fan experience. And I think that really speaks for where the company has headed as a whole, as a corporation, and where their money, their mind is on their money, not necessarily on their fan access experience like they put on for the bigger pay-per-views, like, having a WrestleMania or something couple of 2 or 3 days or the whole week beforehand and doing the Hall of Fame thing. Like, that's when they really go all out for their fans. But the private house shows, there's a reason the attendance is down, is because they just don't give you anything. And plus, it's like 2 or 3 times more than anybody else's shows. Let's just jump into TNA now, because that was the one that came afterward at the very end of the year. And I know that you have a lot more to say about that than obviously about the show you weren't at. So let's get into that.
All right. Well, you want to kind of kick things off?
Okay,
Since
well,
I seem to be losing my voice at the moment.
Drink more beer.
Yeah.
The TNA Impact show was, I believe, on the 30th. So it was right before New Year's, man. And the weather, again, was cold, but it wasn't as snowy and disgusting, I believe, as the last time we went. But it was definitely there, and you could feel it. And the arena was kind of cold, too. But one of the things I liked about the TNA show, and I think you can agree with me on this, expand on it if you will, is the fact that although there were 6 people there, 7 counting Austin Aries, 8 counting Velvet Sky, if you bought the particular action figure, am I right?
Right.
But there were a lot of people there to meet. And this goes back to even the House of Hardcore show that we went to. At the House of Hardcore show, you could meet everybody involved. Period, hands down. They wanted you to come in there and shake their hand and hopefully pay them for an autograph and whatever. Yeah. They wanted to be there. They were promoting themselves. They were trying to get the event, hyped up. They wanted the fan experience and interaction. And with TNA, they wanted it too.
Oh, sorry, go on. Almost cut you off there. I was going to say the House of Hardcore, the meet and greet especially, it really did come off almost like kind of a party atmosphere, where it was just kind of everybody wrestlers and fans alike, just kind of hanging out, talking, and
You felt welcome.
exactly
Like your own house. Like it was a house show. Like there were wrestlers sitting on my couch. Like I could, get them a beer and like talk to them for a minute. It wasn't like a rushed through kind of assembly line. Here's your autograph. Great. And even at the TNA show, if you legitimately talked to these people and held up the line for a minute, nobody was going to bite your head off necessarily. I mean,
yeah. And I got the impression that from some of the performers, especially from the ones that I talked to the most, being Samoa Joe and the tag champs, Chavo and Hernandez, that for the people that actually did kind of make that extra effort to, shake their hand or say, I've been following you for years or something like that, that they really did appreciate that they could see that it wasn't just somebody, just with their kids getting autographs to say they did, or somebody that was going to, turn around and sell them on eBay or something.
Yeah, precisely. Like a lot of those collectors and crap, like I'm sure at the WWE show, 10 of those autographs went at once to the same person at $20 a pop, so they could turn around and sell it on eBay for 3 times what they paid for it. Just ridiculous stuff, because it's popular or somebody's kid would want it. But at the TNA show, all the kids got an autograph. There was one guy in front of us in line that brought like 6 kids. And I'm not knocking him for having 6 kids. I mean, I commend him for being able to control 6 kids in that environment. And in fact, a couple of the wrestlers that he had met earlier in the night, Matt Morgan in particular, got up in his face during the performance a little bit and kind of jibed with him and made the kids boo at him and all that, even though they had met him beforehand and got a picture taken close to him and everything. And I think it was it was a feel-good experience, even though the crowd at that place wasn't the best, which I had already made a video getting into the specifics on that. I felt like the meet and greet at least was a successful part, that they really appreciated you being there. I flirted with Tara a little bit, and not anything out of the ordinary.
At least you think she did. I would imagine she'd probably tell it differently.
Whatever. Well, I'll tell you what I told her. I saw her, and Jesse Goddard was there beside her, and I said, I was a little bit let down when I wasn't debuted as your Hollywood boyfriend. And Goddard stayed in character, bless his heart, and was like, well, we can't all be a star or whatever. And rather than get irritated about it, I looked him in the face and I said, you know what, you've been doing a really good job around here, and I really appreciate what you're doing, and if this is what you want to do, I support you, kind of thing. And, I shook his hand, and we got his autograph too, so it wasn't just like Tara, and make him feel unimportant. I really wanted Jesse Goddard's autograph. I think that this kid can go far in his business, and I wanted to show that I support him and what he's doing, living this dream or whatever the hell it is. And just because he was like a D-list celebrity or whatever when he came into the company, I think a lot of us as fans had the wrong idea about where they were going to go with this, or if it was just cheap heat or whatever. The way he's been featured in such prominence, although it kind of makes the women's knockouts title a little bit irrelevant, the fact is he's been on TV, and he's been on TV with Tara, who is almost a household name when it comes to the knockouts division and even TNA in general. So I liked that, and I liked the fact that when I told Samoa Joe that I've been following his career essentially since he started his fucking career, that, he really appreciated that. And, he gave you kind of that smirk, that wise-ass kind of smirk that I think his personality would have, and I got to shake his hand. And I got to shake Matt Morgan's hand. I literally touched these people, which was cool. And we talked to Chavo and Hernandez probably for the longest time. And I said, can I touch the belts? Can I really touch? I had that little kid moment. I got to hold on to this. I got to hold it over my head kind of thing. Those fucking things are heavy. Holy shit. When they hit each other with these things, no wonder fucking Randy Orton got a concussion at one time. That fucking thing must have been 20 pounds.
Yeah, well, 10 pounds of gold plus whatever the strap weighs.
Yeah,
that's
man.
what they always call it.
Tell them about the observation of the fact that these titles beat the shit. What was it about that we
Yeah,
really...
I assume they use replica belts on TV a lot because they look like they're in good condition, but they had the real belts at the house show. Tara had the Knockouts title, and Chavo and Hernandez had the tag belts on the table in front of them. And up close, they're showing their age. I don't think they've changed the belts, at least the tag belts, probably since probably since they split from the NWA, and I know they haven't ever changed the design of the Knockouts title belt since it was first introduced, and they look like they've been through the ringer. They're pretty scuffed up looking, and you can tell why companies do not reintroduce titles, but why they do change the belts out every so often, every 5 years, whatever.
Well, they have to. I mean, look at what happened with the one guy trying to clean and polish the title and then tarnishing all the fucking gold plating that had been on it and, killing the paint job and everything. Like, I don't remember what particular case this was. Somebody could probably quote me on this out there. I know there's a lot of you in the basement that listen to this. But, I mean, yeah, you're totally right about that. The fact is that these things go through hell. They're on the road all the time. Somebody's going to spill coffee on a damn thing. You can't help it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like trying to keep track of a 2-year-old all the time. Just things are going to happen and messes are going to be made. And that title is just, especially the women's title with the white band on it, leather. I mean,
yeah,
you drop that in the mud or something and you ain't getting it off.
Yeah. In retrospect, maybe the white band wasn't the best design choice for it.
Even the Intercontinental title, for years, ended up back on a black strap just because it didn't show as much wear and tear that way.
Yeah. The only other white band I can think of offhand was when Ultimate Warrior had the various colored title belts. I actually don't remember if he had a white one. I think he did.
Anywhere from blue to pink to purple.
Yeah, I remember
during his
the
title
pink
reign.
one definitely.
I almost remember an electric green at one point. I don't. Anything with him was weird though. But I liked a lot of the fan interaction, especially at the House of Hardcore, but also again at the TNA show. Like,
and incidentally, one of the really cool moments I thought actually was when because we wore our House of Hardcore shirts that we bought from Tommy Dreamer's mom to the TNA show, and Chavo actually noticed that when we came up to get his autograph, and we actually got to talk to him about House of Hardcore a little bit. So it was kind of a cool moment. It did feel more like, fans talking as opposed to, a fan and a performer.
Yeah, like somebody that really follows wrestling other than the company that they're in and wants to perform and is still enthralled, I guess you could say, by other people performing in the ring. I mean, it's part of his blood and his heritage. I get that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he goes out and watches other people's matches. But to see him have an interest in my friend Dan's shirt, like, that says something when you're like, oh, that's Tommy Dreamer's thing. Yeah, I like him, and blah, blah, blah. We do too. Awesome. Let's eat macaroni and cheese and talk about it, for heaven's sakes. Let's go. Another thing I want to talk about with the TNA show was Austin Aries. I thought he was superb.
Yep. I think, I don't remember which of us said it first, but either he's phenomenal at staying in character or he's just really like that. But either way, it's pretty awesome.
Usually when people wear sunglasses inside, I think they're a douchebag. But somehow...
Well, as Larry David put it, only two kinds of people wear sunglasses indoors, blind people and assholes.
Yeah, that's for sure. But Austin Aries really, he impressed me a lot. And when people were coming in, getting their autographs and taking their pictures and everything else, not only was he a good sport about it, but he had almost something funny and witty to say to every person that came up in line to him. How hard would that be if you've got hundreds of people in line and you're staying fresh and you're staying in character, but you're also coming out with zingers and one-liners for just about every person, or if not every other person in that line? Like, I can remember 4 or 5 people deep into the line, he's talking to them, and he was making us laugh the whole time. I don't know what really happened after the fact. I went over back to the merchandise stand and bought more stuff. I mean, we gotta... Oh, that brings me into my next thing, too, after we're done. Just let me finish about Aries with you, though, first.
Yep.
What do you have left to say about Aries? Because he was just fantastic.
Yeah. I don't really have too much to add, I guess, other than what you said already. But one of the cool touches that he did, really for everybody's autograph, the 8x10s they sold for him for $5 a pop for him to sign were from 2011. They were an older picture from when he first debuted, and he would say when he signed them that was a picture of the old him, and he wanted to make it so that it was the new him. Which basically meant that he drew on the mustache that he has now that he did not have in the picture. So, yeah, that was just kind of a cool, funny little little touch there that
A
I enjoyed.
feel-good and humble
Yeah.
moment from somebody that recognizes, yes, you just spent $5 on a picture of me from 2 years ago, but I'm going to make this worth your while and make you laugh because of it, and I'm going to give this a personal touch, you know? Anybody can just sign a friggin' autograph meaninglessly. When you physically take the time to look at the person and say, okay, this is the new me, draw your own mustache on yourself in a comical way to begin with, but then act cool about it, like, oh, that's definitely better now. Like, you're making yourself better. You are doctoring your own photo to make it cooler. Come on. That was awesome.
Yeah.
When we went back to the merchandise stand, people were buying these TNA brown bag specials. Why don't you tell everybody what a TNA brown bag special was? And why was it important that we bought the brown bag?
Well, what I think you're getting at is, as far as why was it important that we bought it, is that it gave you something to put things in.
Precisely. Where the fuck was that shit at WWE or the House of Hardcore show that we went to? This is TNA's ingenuity with the brown bag, man. It's a backpack. You could wear that sumbitch, not misplace it, and it was big. It held every fucking thing we bought. What was it, Dan?
Yeah, in the bag itself, you got what all did you get? Oh, a lot of stuff. It was only $30, which was really a good deal. It came with the program, which was I think $20 on its own.
Yeah.
So in the brown bag, you got that, which is really nice. It's actually designed for autograph signings. We actually managed to buy ours after we got our autographs. So we actually got, for other than Aries, who we bought the 8x10 for. Otherwise, everybody, we just had to sign our tickets. But anyway, the program, it has nice full-color, full-page photos of basically everybody on the roster up to the end of 2012, with, I think, Jesse Goddard's being the notable exception. I guess he just debuted too late to be put in that book, but if you play wrestling video games, you're used to rosters being just slightly outdated, I guess.
Definitely.
And this was the 10th anniversary edition of the program, so there were also a lot of pictures from TNA's past in the front and back sections.
A lot of Ultimate X match stuff, I think, too, huh?
Yeah, there was like a page of pictures from the Knockouts division, and definitely a lot of X division stuff. They actually put a picture of Macho Man in, since, I guess, maybe somewhat little known fact, Macho Man's last ever match actually was his only match in TNA. DDP was in there. Then again, these were small insert photos, and the ones that you would actually get signed at the signings were the big full-page deals. But it's a nice book. I think sometimes they put like clearances of the older programs for sale on Shop TNA, and it's worth picking some of them up, I think, just as nice collector's items. Anyway, aside from the program, you got 3 DVDs, which were somewhat older releases. It's basically back stock that they're trying to get rid of, but at least 2 of the 3 I didn't have yet. I don't think you had any of them.
I didn't have
prior,
any,
right?
no. Everybody got the TNA 10 years, whatever it was, or the Best of the X Division one. I don't remember.
Yeah, the X
double
Division
feature.
one. Yeah.
That was nice. Even if you did have it, it's cool to just get another one, because then somebody that you might not, somebody that you know probably doesn't have it. And
Yeah.
it's a great stocking stuffer. So go ahead and do it.
Yeah, incidentally, that's the one that I actually now have 2 copies of, so if anybody does want a copy of it, let me know. There was an action figure, which again I think they were the 2010 Impact action figure line, so again, back stock they're getting rid of.
But I did get the last Shark Boy.
Yes, you got the last Shark Boy.
He's pissed.
What else? There was something. Oh, the shirt. There was
the shirt. Yeah.
It was the 10-year anniversary Impact Wrestling logo T-shirt.
Blue shirt, kind of grayish lettering, I think. I don't know. Just nice shirt though. Like, I've worn it a few times. Real comfy, real nice. Buy it larger though than you normally would, because that thing shrinks into laundry. But all this stuff fit into the bag. And then if you bought a little bit more stuff, you could still fit it in the bag. And the idea is they gave you a bag. They care. They know that you're not going to be able to carry all this junk around, and they don't want you lugging in bags and crap from the outside so that you're all cluttered. This is a backpack thing. You could wear this and sit down in the chair and not really have too much difficulty with the people behind you. I mean, a little bit because they would rub against you, but just the fact that you could not throw all your crap on the floor and get it trampled on while people were having to pee or get popcorn or whatever. It was a good feeling. It was like they thought this ahead of time and said, you know what would really help our fans out with this? I mean, I'm sure it was convenient to have all the brown bags packed beforehand with this shit, but, just a nice touch.
Yeah. And again, you can use it for other stuff. I actually have, in my merchandise box, I actually have the brown bag itself now used to basically store my relatively small collection of wrestling t-shirts, which is right now 3. The one that came with it, the Shockmaster shirt that I got from Cafe Press that actually wore to House of Hardcore. I'm sure Winter was really impressed with that shirt.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see anybody else with a Shockmaster shirt, but and what's the other? Oh, the House of Hardcore shirt itself. But I do have a Jumpin' Jeff Farmer shirt on order that I'll hopefully get soon. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna wear that one to the next House of Hardcore. I'm hoping somebody will say ask me if I think that's the best wrestling shirt ever, and I'm just gonna say, yep, probably the greatest shirt I ever had in my life.
Unless, of course, the interviewee turns the tables on you in a wrong way.
As opposed to turning the tables in a right way.
Who knows? Epic promo skills from one Jumpin' Jeff Farmer. I think really with the TNA show, again, it lacked star power to me.
Yeah, even as opposed to the one from a year prior, I could see that, definitely. And just in general, I thought the card itself was somewhat weaker than the 2011 version.
Yeah, and I know that they can't always bring the same people, but, you're going to advertise Kurt Angle, have Kurt Angle. If you're going to replace him in a match with James Storm, okay, that's one thing, and that's cool. But that takes James Storm away from facing somebody else on the card that could have also been a bigger name, or it could have been a better match. The Knockouts match, which was very impromptu, when Velvet Sky essentially rushed the ring and, managed to beat Tara in probably a minute and a half, I think it was. I don't know. It was very short.
Yeah.
Didn't really feel like all that great of a match. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm here, I'm beating you up, and done. Not really a lot of thought put into that, I mean, and I know that Velvet Sky isn't the best technical wrestler on the face of the planet or anything, but you could at least do a match, The people came there to see a match, not to see, yay, I won. What are you, Super Cena? Come on. A lot of the other booking was kind of predictable, but I did like Bobby Roode. I liked that match there. That was good.
Yeah.
Of course, Hardy winning was very predictable, but at the very end of that, as opposed to the WWE show, Hardy again, for the second year in a row, was taking pictures in the middle of the ring with whoever. And they stayed there until all those pictures were done. TNA gives a shit, and it's very evident.
Yep.
And I think that that's part of the reason why TNA continues to have popularity. I don't know if you could say success at this point, but definitely popularity. And I think with a lot of the older fans that get it, that's what they want to expose their kids to, the next generation, is the fact that this company gives a crap as opposed to just the same old corporate thing with that other company.
And I think the idea of doing an autograph signing in some form, whether it's, the much more relaxed kind of party feel that House of Hardcore did, or the somewhat more formalized but still enjoyable version that TNA did, I think that really is a great idea for any wrestling company. And I guess WWE kind of sort of is jumping on the bandwagon now. I saw an article that if you buy the super premium tickets for house shows, there will be some kind of fan access thing, but again, it doesn't seem to be all inclusive. Just from what I read, it looks like it's just the several $100 front row tickets that's going for. But again, it's a great thing. I mean, you always hear stories about, especially in recent years, Punk's gotten kind of a bad reputation for kind of being standoffish to fans approaching him in the airport, and, maybe that is a personality flaw on his part, but on the other hand, I do get it, I mean, you have to remember, these are real people, too. if you're running through an airport to catch a plane, nobody's in a good mood at that point. Nobody wants to stop and sign autographs.
Especially if you've been awake for 16 hours already and are trying to get on another moonlight, red light, whatever the hell it is, flight.
Exactly.
Red eye flight. That's what they call it, red eye.
Or even people waiting outside the arena door. Tommy Dreamer himself, in fact, on Colt Cabana's Art of Wrestling, has a long story about how one of his formative moments, both as a fan and a performer, was as a kid basically being blown off by Bob Backlund when he tried to get his autograph after a show that he went to as a kid. But again, after, say, a grueling match, you probably don't want to hang around if you're a wrestler. You probably want to, get back to the hotel or whatever and rest up because you're probably going to be driving for 10 hours the next day. So, on the one hand, when you hear stories like that, I get it, I'm certainly not a celebrity or anything, but for what I do, I do work with the public myself. I do tours at a historic site, and there's moments where I'll actually wait a few extra minutes before I go home at the end of the day if I know that somebody that I had on the tour is going to be out there waiting to ask one last question. I mean, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't mind that, but if you have some place to be or, you just are done for the day and don't really want to talk to people anymore, I get where that kind of thing comes from. So I think having a formalized event where you can get autographs done, that there's a time and a place for it, I think that's really a great thing for fans just in general.
I think that fans also need to be a little bit woken up, because if you're going to be out in public, you also have a responsibility to uphold, because you're a person. You're supposed to be part of civilization, not just a drooling, mentally antiquated, handicapped person that is sitting around outside the bathroom stall that, let's say, Bully Ray is taking a dump at, trying to get an autograph. Do you really want his autograph after he wiped his ass? Come on!
Interesting mental image to bring up there.
Of course. The point is, if you're going to a show, there's going to be generally an autograph session. Or there's going to be a place at the show where you can get autographs from these people. Whether they're pre-done or not, I don't know. With WWE, who the hell knows anymore? It seems like the fan access is only really big at the big four pay-per-views, or especially at the WrestleMania week where they really concentrate on this crap. But other than that, they're all over. They're touring. They're doing their thing. Kofi Kingston doesn't need you outside of the gas station to come up with your 3 kids and all of them wanting an autograph at the same time. He's in a car. He's got places to be. I say Kofi Kingston because he's probably one of the bigger babyface stars that they've pushed over the last few years. And even still, he hasn't made it out of the mid-card yet. But, what if it was Tensai? Would he stop and do an autograph? Give Punk a break, for crying out loud. He's been on top for a little bit. But he's still Punk. And he still wants to have his own life outside of the ring, And any of these guys, even. I know that Cena would probably stop just because it's Cena. And as much as we crap on Cena here in the YWC, you can't argue the fact that he goes out of his fucking way for everybody. Well, like him or not, he tries to make you get involved with the product. But when was the last time Randy Orton sat down and signed an autograph? Probably never. He asked fans for cigarettes, but then couldn't turn around and sign an autograph for them. Like, come on, really? And I think the point that I'm trying to make here is, the more and more you get back to the throwback old school shows at these smaller events and venues, the more it feels like it's not just fans and performers or you going to see a show from the company, but rather it's a whole dynamic and a whole experience that night that everybody there is a part of, because the people that are doing it in front of these smaller audiences, they're counting on you to show up again. They know that there's not the big market in these smaller places. You're not going to get 4,800 other people from another part of the state to drive all the way down to this small little half-ass show. They need you to come back, and they need you to feel welcome. And I think that even for their own ego, they want to feel welcome. They want you to cheer for them. Because at these little shows, it's almost like Bizarro World sometimes. You'll get the big bad heels out there, like the FBI in the match between Doring and Roadkill and themselves, and the fucking fans were going off the friggin' wall for the FBI in the beginning of the match, and the commentary on the DVD even states, wow, the FBI is really getting the fans are really getting behind them today. They were shocked. They didn't know. What do you do? You know, you just you go with it. And I think that sometimes when the fans can dictate the product again, it's a better moment than the same old crap that you're getting year after year or month after month or whatever that's predictable, and it's designed for us for simplicity's sake, because it's going to be safe and because it's going to draw bigger ratings from casual fans that can still identify who's who. Very repetitive kind of things. Whereas the house shows give you more of an experience and they give you more surprise. Like, I didn't expect Scott Steiner to wrestle a match at the House of Hardcore against Luke Gallows. I just thought he was going to be a performer there and show up and do autographs and cut a promo or something, you know?
Yeah, and Rick Steiner was there too. He was not directly involved in the match. Basically, the match was Scott Steiner came out to do a promo, just kind of standard, give Big Papa Pump a live mic and see what happens kind of deal, which was always gold in and of itself.
Always.
And I kind of figured that would be the extent of his involvement, since he wasn't actually advertised for being in a match. He was just advertised for also appearing, basically. So then Luke Gallows and Eddie Kingston came out. Gallows got in his face, so the match started. A ref came out, and eventually Eddie Kingston's interference led to Rick Steiner coming out from the back to back his brother up. What was our point on this again? I just had a mental block.
Oh, the fact that they give a shit about the fans and the experience.
Oh yeah.
The fact that it was interactive.
Exactly. Yeah.
The fact that Steiner hit him with the kendo stick that the fan had bought.
Yeah, they were selling, like, I assume, replica kendo sticks at the merch stand at House of Hardcore, and during the match, there was a lot of outside brawling in that one, and Steiner just grabbed a kendo stick from one of the fans in the front row and hit him over the head with it and handed it back.
It's almost like that movie, The Wrestler, when the fan with the fake leg says, "Use my leg, use my leg," and that, he clobbers him over the head with it. Like, it's just, and that was obviously meant to have been at a house show because of the small venues he was touring in that movie.
Yeah, I think they were mostly taped at Ring of Honor and CZW, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen that in a few years, but.
And the point being is you get the crowd into it more that way.
Yeah.
It's not all just the chanting of "Feed me more," or, Cena sucks, which I humbly believe that the Cena character does suck, but not everybody has to chant it for a half hour, because we're people with functioning brains, and we can operate at a level higher than being programmed robotically. Even if the WWE machine capitalized on the Cena sucks thing and gave you a t-shirt for that, you don't physically have to go out and buy it, because you're just paying them more money. You can just sit at home and turn off the TV during that portion, which I had done for months and now have done long term. But
and to your point, when you do have these more organic chants happening at the shows, there really can be a give and take between things like that happening and the performers. Case in point, we mentioned it already, but the phenomenal "You Got Teabag" chant in the London Kendrick and Young Bucks match, where they heard that chant happening, of course, after the spot was done, and they played into it with, I think it was Nick Jackson, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Nick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Eventually, after he got the momentum back on his team's side, did the "Who got teabagged now" thing.
Yeah. It was really, really well done. And I think oftentimes with a smaller crowd, too, is it's easier to judge the reaction.
Yeah. Actually, a great thing to listen to about that is the podcast, Colt Cabana's podcast, Art of Wrestling. The episode with Brooklyn Brawler. I don't remember what episode number it is, but it was fairly recent, just a month or two ago. So go back through the archive on WeLoveColt.com and you can find it easily. But Brawler actually mentions that they got into a talk about doing the big stadium shows like WrestleMania versus smaller venues, and Brawler actually talks about and specifically mentions even the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. He didn't call it by name, but he said the place up in Poughkeepsie, so that's what it was, because WWF did tape WWF Championship Wrestling there in the 80s, and he said he loved places like the place up in Poughkeepsie because you can actually see the crowd on a more personal level and have that level of interaction, where with the big stadium shows, it just kind of all blends together, and it doesn't have that personal touch.
I think the personal touch is really what makes or breaks the show for me at this point in my life.
Yeah.
I'm no longer 6 years old. I'm no longer brainlessly cheering for the Ultimate Warrior because his music is loud, his colors are bright, and his moveset is very quick and bang, I just clotheslined you 18 times. Wow. He raced across the ring. It was exciting. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a different mindset now. I look at myself, maybe a little bit too much as a critical fan, but on the point of being intelligent, trying to get behind these performers. And although we here in the YWC and the IWC, sometimes we glorify the heels just because of the fun things and the interesting things that they do. Take Bully Ray, for instance. Bully Ray is a guy that got himself over so well on the microphone over the past 2 years, just doing what he does. He didn't do anything differently. He was just himself. And the interaction that he had with us at the Albany show back in 2011
that was phenomenal.
Far outweighed the mic work that we got this time around when they really didn't let him be himself because he had to dumb it down to stay a babyface. You know what I mean? Like, he was very limited this time around. But the quote that I do remember from this show in particular was, "Christy Hemme, get in here. I'm going to slap your ass." And that made me chuckle. Like, that's okay. You can do that. And to be able to get away with that at a smaller show, as opposed to just being on television and trying to pull this stuff off where the network is going to get down your throat about, well, you can't mistreat women that way, or you can't have women in the ring at the same time as the men, and you can't, just any kind of drama that would have had was negated by the fact that it was at a house show. It was a more personable experience, and Christy Hemme got in there and spanked Austin Aries, and everybody started laughing. I mean, you just couldn't help but think it was funny. Of course it was unbelievable. That's the point of professional wrestling, is it's a fucking experience. It's entertainment. You're supposed to react to it. You're not supposed to be the asshole in the crowd behind us that was, shouting heckles every 6 seconds that I promptly told to shut the fuck up. But it's something that it really draws the crowd in as a whole. Not just me, and not just Dan, and not just the 30-year-olds in the crowd, and not just the 6-year-olds, but everybody that can get behind, a baby face, or people that can, when a heel makes a really devastating low blow comment, mid-argument, you can go, ooh, like just one of those things. And it's that keeps the experience, again, I'm harping on this word, experience, it keeps it special. It keeps it feeling like it's more than just, I paid money to sit here and watch oily men grapple each other, like, I don't know. How do you feel? Like, what? I know what my favorite of the experiences was. It was going to see the House of Hardcore show. But I'm curious to know how you feel about the two shows. If there's, dynamics of one that you thought were better than the other. If, you had more fun at one as opposed to the other, why it would be. And I think it's a good way to close out the show, is just to get the closing thoughts on each one that we went to together.
Yeah, I definitely agree that my favorite of the two experiences definitely was the House of Hardcore. Yeah, it just felt like it was part of being something special to be in that crowd. That it was the first show. It was kind of like almost like a new era starting, moving past just all of the ECW reunions they've been doing, and
not only that,
something new.
Not only that, but growing out of the Attitude Era finally. Like getting past that, because I'm done with the Austin what chance. Back to you.
And B, just that it was so much effort was put forth in that show from everyone involved, from just the planning levels to the performers at the meet and greet, interacting with fans, to the show itself, to make it really a special experience for the fans. It really was something I felt that was put together for the people in the crowd first and foremost. And again, I really did get almost a relaxed, the best way I can describe it, kind of like a party feel, that it was kind of like just a gathering of wrestling fans from different eras to come together and have a good time. And it was a pretty good mixed crowd. There was definitely a lot of the old ECW crowd that went to ECW shows at that arena back in the 90s.
Fuck 'em up, Tommy. Fuck 'em up.
Yeah, there was some of the classic ECW chants still there, definitely.
And definitely the same old Sandman entrance.
Sure.
That it was great to be a part of.
I never did get to see ECW live, which was always kind of a regret of mine as a wrestling fan, just because of how insanely hot those crowds were when you watch them on video. And the whole sing-along Sandman entrance where Enter Sandman hits, and everybody, of course, knows the words and sings along to it as he's coming down and taking the whole song to do so. It was great to really actually be part of that. At one point, just before he got in the ring, because we were fifth row ringside, Sandman was basically just a couple of feet away from us, and close enough that you could smell the cheap beer as he hit it over his own head.
As he hit it over his own head and gave it to the girls with the big titties in the row in front of us. And,
yeah.
You know, and at the same time, you will never see another entrance like that again in professional wrestling. That is over with and done, I think, unless a new little promotion takes the time to do it and get it over to the point where another bigger company either has to steal the talent to do it himself or steal the idea and get one of their own to do it. You know, we always come back to this word experience. I lived through the experience of being a fan during not only the Attitude Era, but the big golden era before that, the Hogan era, if you want to call it so.
The Rock and Wrestling era?
The Rock and Wrestling era, as MTV would call it, or as anybody else really.
Actually, the WWF called it that at the time.
True.
Or called it that. I don't know, did they call it that at the time, or was it in retrospect that they applied the label?
I think it's more of a retrospect.
Probably.
I know they were called... Hogan's own promo called it the Rock and Wrestling Revolution. But I don't think they actually literally went by that around the time that WrestleMania 1 and 2 were really getting off the ground.
It was probably a little bit. But like the Attitude Era, it wasn't really called that until at least partway through the era itself.
When Vince McMahon came on TV and dubbed it that himself. But
yeah.
But before then, you knew. You just knew. Wrestling was getting real hot then. And wrestling at the time of Hogan being the champion, the first time, not later in his NWO career, which again, by the way, was a hot time in wrestling. But just that experience, growing up as a kid during those formative years of your life, and having professional wrestling be such a big part of it. Now, at these house shows, knowing what I do know now about the business, seeing the good and the bad after all these years, it really makes me step back and wonder what these kids are getting today on TV because they're getting so much of it. Are they just becoming numb to it and not really experiencing it as much? And I think that these house shows really kind of grabs them back in, puts the bait on the fish hook and says, come here, I'll give you something really good to think about for a couple of years. And because it's not tailored for the kids specifically and mind-numbing in its presentation, these house shows sometimes are what really drew us in as fans in the first place. I get that the House of Hardcore show wasn't PG in its rating. I mean, they were swearing left and right sometimes. But the fact is, and I know that you can quote Nintendo Power on this even, sometimes kids look up to the bigger kids and the adults for what's cool and for what they want to emulate and do. And until we have another surge of that in wrestling, when it's finally for the adults again, or at least the older kids, you're not going to get a lot of kids thinking it's cool. You're going to get the couple that buy the Cena shirts now and are running around the 4th grade waving their hand in front of their face.
But then they'll eventually grow out of it, and there won't be something to keep their interest after they kind of grow out of that.
They're going to get a summer job or a car or go to camp and meet their girlfriend or whatever, and it's going to be done. It's not going to be a part of their life like it was mine, And for even for some of the adults that are getting into wrestling now, like, oh, okay, cool, so The Rock is going to be involved in WrestleMania, and I know who he is because he's a movie star, whatever. I've never seen a WWE show before. You're really, really missing out on a lot of the more focal years that defined what WWE was, at least in our opinion. And I don't just mean the Attitude Era when I say this. There's a lot of crap that the Attitude Era did wrong. I'll be the first to admit it. One of those things is that it had to be sexual, it had to be edgy, it had to push the envelope, and it had to be a whole schmoz of 20 other people coming down to the ring to have a Russo-esque ending to a match because you wrote yourself into a corner and couldn't creatively get out of it without involving all these fucking people on TV that were now very popular. I remember back in the day when Sergeant Slaughter was an Iraqi sympathizer, and Hulk Hogan had to beat him at WrestleMania 7 and bring the title back to the United States of America, brother. Like, that was huge because I was in the 3rd or 4th grade around that time. That was humongous to me as a kid, as a fan. And even identifying now with the product, I think back to that, and I go, that was one of the best heel turns they ever did, was when they put Sergeant Slaughter as an Iraqi sympathizer. Something they'd never have the balls to do anymore because it's not friendly enough to the children's generation, and because the networks that they're on wouldn't have the fucking brass to do it, and Vince McMahon wouldn't go head-to-head with them and say, this is what we're doing with our product, whether you like it or not. But at the house shows, you can do things like that, and although it's on a much smaller stage, a much smaller level, I think that that's more rewarding as an experience, to be able to not be held back by all the corporate BS and the strings. And I think that it goes back to what it says on Tommy Dreamer's shirt there for House of Hardcore. There's no politics. There's no BS. It's just wrestling. Wrestling in its glory. You know, it doesn't mean doing 25 flippy flips and awesome spots in the ring. It means that there's storytelling, there's psychology, there's promos. There's a reason for you to get invested in this shit, not just to go watch a bunch of gymnasts. I could do that at the Olympics if I wanted to.
You really think you could do that at the Olympics?
Watch it, not do it.
Okay.
Jackhole. Your closing thoughts, my friend.
My closing thoughts. I don't know, I thought we were already doing our closing thoughts.
Oh. Oops.
Well, we're just over the hour mark anyway. It's not quite as bad as the
4 hours of
4-part thing we did last time.
So, well, I
guess that's it.
I guess that is it. On a very personal note to me, because I'm a big fan of this guy sitting next to me here, Dan Talks Rasslin dot, it's a big dot, live journal dot, that's the other dot again, com. It'll be in the link somewhere, unless I forget again, in which place I'll edit it in later. That's his website for his blog. He keeps up with TNA and Ring of Honor. And currently.
Yeah, I did cover WWE up until last, I guess it was July or so.
Before SummerSlam.
Yeah. And who knows, if the product does improve, I'll certainly, and I do get involved in it, I'll certainly cover it again. And I don't know, there's a few other smaller promotions that I've been kind of looking at lately, and I don't actively cover yet, but might start doing at some point soon. And if you can't remember the live journal address, you can also find me on Twitter at Dan Talks RASSLIN, RASSLIN.
I don't know any other way to spell it.
Of course. And that'll have a link to the blog. Every time I do a blog post, I actually do a tweet in the Twitter feed to link to it. And I do sometimes semi-live tweet during Impact or whatever. Not always, but once in a while I do that kind of thing.
Look for his posts about the aftermath of the pay-per-views. I really do enjoy them. I'm not just saying that because I'm drinking beer in his living room. I'm saying that because I read it. And on this channel in particular, I don't know that I'm going to do week-to-week, reviews of shows. I had done that originally when I first started because everybody was doing that, but that's kind of a tired thing. You can watch other people's videos that are much better than mine, and opinions that aren't as opinionated, just presenting facts, I guess, for or against. Whereas me, I'm always going to tell you like I see it, and sometimes a lot of people can't take that. But to those of you that have stuck by me so far, thank you. I know that we went over an hour here. I didn't plan on doing it, but usually whenever we do anything, it seems to just kind of take off on its own, and we get lost in the moment, whatever. So thanks for tuning into this, and I think, it was a lot of fun for both of us to relive this.
Sure.
And I definitely know that a lot of you out there, maybe some of you even went to these shows. Give us your thoughts below. We're both going to be looking at the comments. We can both answer you. Go ahead and check out his blog. And I hope that I have a lot more of these audios to come about other subjects that aren't just the current wrestling Maybe it's throwback things. Maybe it's older videos, DVDs, whatever that we're talking about. Maybe it's just more house show coverage. I think that we should really make this a thing about John and Dan's or Dan and John's. It's alphabetically correct, whatever. Excellent wrestling adventure, because again, adventure implies you had an experience, and that's really what I'm after as a wrestling fan, is getting the most out of my experience. For Live from My Mother's Basement Productions, this has been Johnny. This is my best friend Dan over here.
Yes, again, Dan talks RASSLIN.livejournal.com, because you can never plug something enough.
Shameless self-promotion. We will see you next time, or maybe we'll just hide behind an audio on a black screen and we won't see you because you'll be seeing us, but you won't because it's a picture. Anyway, whatever. I'm going to put Maurice's titties up here to get hits on this video. Later.